Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel, founder of a revolutionary medical sales training and mentorship program called the Medical Sales Career Builder, and I'm also host of the Medical Sales Podcast. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire world. It doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing and diagnostic lab, you name it, you will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 10% performer within your role, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. And remember, I am a medical sales expert sharing my own opinion about this amazing industry and how it can change your life. So, if a sales rep is listening to this right now, right, and they're like, you know what, I really want to be a better communicator, because I like what you said about how, as a sales rep, your chief aim should be, how can I be the best communicator ever? What's the one thing you would advise anyone listening right now to do on a daily basis to take that step towards becoming the better communicator?
Man, I love it. That's another complex question, because is there really one? But I will say, I will go back to our Warren Buffett for a second.
Sure.
You know, so those out there, most people know Warren Buffett. He says he's kind of retiring at like 94, 95, whatever he is now. You know, but he's such an amazing person, built an amazing organization in really just, again, I don't know him personally, but he lives through, it seems as if he lives through humility. And he says, I don't know where he gets his number from, but I like it, so I'll say it. He says that if you invest in yourself and you invest in communication, there's not a better gift that you can give yourself, and you will increase your personal value by 50%. I don't know where he got that from, but he's been relatively successable. Still lives in the same house, relatively. Yeah, drinks his McDonald's coffee, and based on the market, it depends on the order he does at McDonald's. So he's a fascinating character, an amazing person in business in this country and in the world. But now to go to that, so let's just take communication now, because if that were the number one thing, invest in yourself in communication, then the natural fallout to your question is, well, then what's the one thing underneath that? And is there one thing? You know, and so I'm going to give you five.
Five things to work on to become a better communicator.
Five things. Yeah.
To work on to become a better communicator.
Yeah. And I'm kind of never been asked this question before, so I'm just going to say them. For our listeners, let's not even worry about putting them in order.
Okay.
Let's throw out five things that are important.
Let's go.
If you don't have a process for how you intentionally communicate, so you can have the flexibility to be your very best when you get under pressure, go find one. If it's not NeuroSelling, go find it. And I'm not talking about a sales framework. I'm talking about something that helps you communicate with more impact.
And I hate that. Like, I got to interject. So just so we can keep people tracking here, can you just define what it means to have a process real quickly?
Yeah. So I'll use the one that we train. It's going to sound biased. I'm not making this a commercial. I don't like that either. But I believe in NeuroSelling so much because I use it every day, and I shove my sales calls through, because I still sell in our firm. You know, I put it through our AI tool, and it scores me. So I know when I don't do it well and when I do.
Sure.
But we described this a little bit earlier, but the process would be personal connection first, prospect story second, problem story third, insights with urgency, lead up to the product to step 4. Understand the barriers preventing your success. I do not believe in objection handling. That's a visceral response to something I've already communicated, meaning that I blew it in steps 1 through 4. And then lastly, what's the commitment we're trying to get? That's a process.
Okay.
Spin selling, challenger sale, all of them have a process of some kind. Sure. Find one that works for you, but find one that has the underbellies of neuroscience and behavioral psychology relative to the impact of why it's in that order. Make sure you check that box, because otherwise it's probably could be something somebody made up in their garage, and that's not very interesting to me. All right. Okay. So when they wrote a book and they made $1 million or more, but that's not interesting to me. So that's number 1.
All right.
Number 2, be world class at asking questions. As communicators, I really don't believe, and somebody's going to listen and go, well, I know open-ended versus closed-ended and funnel questions or whatever they were trained on. I'm like, no, you have to prepare questions at a higher level, closed-ended with a purpose. If we did a whole exercise on that, if you want to draw me back to anything, we can come back to it. I don't know how long you want to go, but but let's just call it questioning. That's number two. If I ask you great,
So
yep.
now I'm realizing I'm going to interrupt you on every single one of these.
Okay.
So with questions, I guess my first thought is, how do I know if I'm world-class question asker? Is that something
Right.
that
Yeah.
is it more of, well, if you're number one in your territory, your region, or your company, then you are, or no, there is
No.
a criteria to put yourself through to evaluate if you really are a world-class question asker.
Yeah. So let's play a game real quick. Can we play a game? Do we have time for a minute?
Absolutely. We have
All
time.
right.
Let's do it.
All right. So let's play this game. Let's just say, and I'm just play this with me for 1 second.
Sure.
Has there been anything interesting that we've talked about so far in our first 30 minutes?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. What did you find interesting?
I love the fact that having a process can get you really far. I love the fact that you have science and data to support that trust can be developed instantaneously. I love the fact that your entire background was medical sales that led you to where you are today to even have these discussions. I mean, those are just three.
Okay, I love it. So when you think about trust, what could you take out of our trust conversation that you could implement immediately following this call?
Well, I could evaluate what my process is when it comes to selling, developing relationships. Like what process, when it comes to communication, what process do I put people through? I'm definitely going to look into your book, NeuroSelling 2.0. And I can't wait to hear the other 5 out of the 2 we've mentioned.
Okay, now pause. So now you want to ask yourself if you're a world-class person asking questions. What I did was I asked you a closed-ended question first because I wanted to see whether you were going to say, I knew you could only say yes, no, or maybe.
Sure.
So once you said yes, hey, there's been something interesting. Okay, that now I took that risk because I felt there would be a high probability because of the connection I feel with you on even though we're on, just we're over the wire here.
Sure.
I wish we were in person, but we're over the wire. So I knew I was pretty confident it was going to be a yes. So then I asked you a what question. What was it? Because that was intentional because I wanted to feel the vision of everything that we talked about. And I didn't want to bias you to one thing or another, which is world class because I opened it wide open.
Sure.
And then once you gave me you almost gave me 4 things, 3, maybe if we played the tape back, maybe 3 to 5. And so I heard the word trust. So then I used the power of when, which is completely underutilized in the English language. The power of when actually allows you to hijack your brain. It's called instinctive elaboration. And that concept actually hijacks the human brain for just that moment that all you can think about is trust. And that isolates you back down into that moment of then you gave me more detail. So if you want to know if you're world-class in questions, do you prepare questions? Do you know how to structure questions? Can you expand your vocabulary on all the amazing open-ended and closed-ended questions you have at your disposal? And then lastly, do you know how to navigate those when something you don't get the answer that you anticipate? And amazing lawyers, amazing communicators, amazing broadcasters, amazing doctors, clinical data, doctors that ask the best questions and show empathy actually get better outcomes, even though than those that can't. So anyway, questioning, that's a little bit on that.
Okay, this is great. So number 1, have a process. Number 2, be someone that's world class at asking questions through the framework we just established. Go ahead and give us 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah. Okay. So number 3, active listening. I'm not a great listener. So when you start talking, Samuel, for me, I know my communication habit is to interrupt. So if I've done that to you, I apologize. But I know that I've worked on it for my whole career. And so, I don't know when you broadcast this out, do they see us? They don't hear just our voices. They see us.
Oh no, this is going to be on YouTube. It's going to get hundreds of views. Absolutely.
Okay. So just watch the screen for 1 second. Technically that was 3 seconds, but as a communicator, we don't allow space. And so the best listeners in the world are the ones that can get to level 3 listening from the work my mentors have done, which is where you're so in tune. You already have so locked in how you want to try to navigate the conversation that you now open up your ability to listen. And then you can pick up the meaning beyond the words. So when that sales professional that feels all that pressure of the time, I got to go, man, let's go. I got to go into surgery. That's all real. But man, when you get something, when you get the nugget, you've got to let it breathe a little bit a little bit. Just make sure they don't have something they want to follow up on, or that you don't jump on them. You know what I'm saying? So active listening is so powerful. It's just so powerful. So that's not what are we on 3? That's
You know
3.
what? That's so cool what you said, because the most amazing sales interactions I've seen is when you have that busy physician that says, hurry up, I got to go do this thing. And that rep is listening intently, asks a question, an open-ended question, that gets the physician talking and says, but what about whatever it is? And the physician suddenly has the next 10 minutes,
Mm.
whether it's a patient, not so much procedure, but whether it's a patient, something they were going lunch, whatever they were going off to do, they suddenly have 10 minutes they want to give that rep, because
Right?
that rep was able to capture that thing that got them to stop everything they're doing and say, okay, I actually want to dial into this person. So yeah, I love that one. Okay.
Yeah, and you'll capture them with care. And that's why care and empathy and well-being actually does still matter even in sales. So number 4, I would say, is become a world-class storyteller.
Mm.
And there's a reason for that. The reason for that, before you ask me, is the reason I'm seeing a rhythm here. The reason for that is, and it's been work that's been done by Stanford, the London School of Business. A lot of sellers, or some sellers, know this. But if I present the same information on facts and figures, my recall of that short and midterm recall is only like 7%. People are going to be able to recall it. If I take facts and figures, then especially in like pharma sales as an example, we get our visual aids. We're in a medical, legal, regulatory compliant state. So people that talk about medical sales and they don't really understand it, they know that it's dangerous to go off of what's approved for us to go off of. That's just our business, right? We have to play within boundary conditions. And so with that being said, though, if I showed you the visual aid and with facts, my recall goes up to about 25%. It's good. It's not great. Storytellers, if I give you facts and figures and a visual and I narrate it or wrap it in a story, recall goes up to 70%. So if you want to make an impact, you have to be an amazing storyteller. And that's a gift, which is why, again, we can't draw in this industry. Like if I went back to the farmer example and I could draw that crop production cycle, like I could take my iPad and literally draw it, and and they'll follow me, like remember old Bob Ross? He used to paint clouds on Saturday mornings. Like,
Yeah.
you might be too young, I don't know, but
No, I
that
remember.
whole thing was about you remember? Yeah, we follow Bob. Why?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, why do we follow that? We follow that because we're anticipating what's coming next. Or in modern day, why do we watch HGTV when we could care less about some house that they're rebuilding that's in like a different part of the world than we are? Because we get wrapped in the story first, thus we got to see the ending. Why is it on The Voice or American Idol that they tell you the story before they show you they can sing? Because you get invested in the story. The best storytellers, I am convinced of it, there's data all over the place, are the best sellers. So that's number 4. And then my last one is, if you invest in anything, invest in emotional intelligence. And I am, that is one of my areas of expertise. And I was trained under one of the best in the world in that space. And I am, man, our ability to be aware of how emotions affect our performance, and then how we can self-control and manage our emotions by then showing through social awareness, empathy, and the things that pulling that provider in where we get those 10 minutes. The last quadrant that most people don't realize in emotional intelligence is that all leads to relationship management. And that's a cascade. And I'm so tired. It's 1995, Samuels, when Time Magazine came out and said that emotional intelligence may be the best predictor of success in life, not just business. And I would argue, you and I both come from different cultural backgrounds, but if you don't know my story, you don't know I have an adopted child from China. So you might not view at all how a 57-year-old white guy from Ohio in a plaid shirt views certain things, but you might make certain assumptions, and those assumptions are so dangerous. And we're becoming less emotionally intelligent, not more. And there's data to support this. The number one function in an organization that they believe should have emotional intelligence training is sales, because we're in high pressure situations most of the time, and emotions are flying all over the place. So those are my big 5.
Okay. Now I'm going to pick on 2 of them.
Okay.
So with storytelling, again, you're listening to this and you're like, man, this is gold. Vigorously taking notes. And then you get to storytelling, you're thinking, well, how do I become a better storyteller? Now I know that there can be a thousand answers to that, but for just something that someone can just pick up today to get in the groove of at least practicing it and letting it lead them to whatever it's going to lead them to, what would you advise?
So if I was in pharma sales and I said, Barbara, is a mother of two, third grade teacher, has major depressive disorder and can't get out of bed. Thus, let me show you some clinical data that actually showed some clinical signs that Barbara did really well. Facts about Barbara leading into facts inside the product. Ain't nobody gonna remember that, and you're gonna look like a bottle of water with a different label. And the next rep that comes into you after that is gonna look the same way, and that's gonna happen. Now, if I transfer that and I said, Samuel, I want to take just a second. I want to paint this picture. And I was really thinking about this. I've been in the depression field for a long time. So appreciate what you do as a psychiatrist every day, so that when the Barbaras walk into your world, and when she puts her feet on the floor in the morning and she's about to walk into the kitchen where she's got to make breakfast and get the packed lunches out of the refrigerator for her kids. And then she's so debilitated by her migraine that she can't do that. And all of a sudden she has to climb back into bed, or she has to draw the shades because she can no longer see. That's not good enough anymore. Our whole thing is about getting Barbara out of that bed, able to get to the refrigerator, get the lunches out, get her kids off to school, get herself dressed, and get back to work. And man, I've got some amazing data that we believe shows that when the Barbaras of the world get into that situation, maybe they can have marginal improvement, even if you had to do it in an adjunct sort of way. Now, they're two different stories. I just made it up, so that might not even be a good example. But if I can bring the emotion back into Barbara instead of sanitizing Barbara as a fact, as a statistic, you go to another level and you're just a better communicator. And I'm more interested, because what happens is, again, back to science, what happens is you're activating the empathic network of the brain, not the analytical network, because the physician can internally visualize the story, be relationally connected to it. Thus, he's going to then kick it to his analytical network to be like, okay, I can make a buying decision. Is it possible to go the other way? It is. I can give facts and figures, kick it down, solve a problem, kick it back up. It's possible, just not very efficient. And anybody out there, you can chat GPT me on this later, but the brain is an efficiency-based organ. Translation is it's lazy. So it's constantly seeking information it already knows, so it can make a decision and sub-optimize that. That's Nobel Prize winning work back in decision-making theory. I am a professor, so that, like, I think theory matters, but nonetheless, they're always wrong, but they're interesting. But how do we learn from that, right? Relative to then how do we lean into the power of storytelling? So I don't know if that's a good or bad example, but there you go.
I hope you're enjoying today's episode. And I want to let you know our programs cover the entire career of a medical sales professional. From getting into the medical sales industry, to training on how to be a top performer in the medical sales industry, to masterfully navigating your career to executive level leadership. These programs are personalized and customized for your specific career and background, and trained by over 50 experts, including surgeons. Our results speak for ourselves, and we're landing positions for our candidates in less than 120 days in top medical technology companies like Stryker, Medtronic, Merck, Abbott, you name it. Would you run an Ironman race without training and a strategy? You wouldn't. So why are you trying to do the same with a medical sales position? You need training, you need a strategy, and you need to visit evolveyoursuccess.com, fill out the application, schedule some time with one of our account executives, and let's get you into the position that you've always dreamed of. Okay, so someone could take that example and I guess try to model it with what they got going on to get better at storytelling.
Yeah, and practice it. Like, take your visual aid or whatever your promotional piece is and really look at that information and say to yourself, how am I going to humanize that information? Yeah. But you're not going to do it if you don't practice it. Man. Those of us that are listening to you and I, Samuel, that are great storytellers, those of them listening to us, they know who they are. They're just amazing. Jeff Bloomfield used to say at Genentech, he kept getting promoted, and every time marketing came out to work with him, they're like, we don't get it. This kid doesn't do anything we tell him to do. He just tells stories. And it turned out that his grandfather was an amazing story. His father was a Marine, a PTSD-based Marine from, completely different style of communication than his papa. But he picked up this amazing storytelling techniques, and we try to train people that through the power of visual storytelling. But it really takes a lot of practice. We wouldn't solve it today in 48 minutes, but it takes a lot of practice, but lean into it. So what was the other one?
And then the other one I had is same thing. When it comes to emotional intelligence, and someone listening right now is saying, okay, I really want to get better at that.
Yeah.
What would you advise?
Yeah. First of all, you got, just like the questioning, you got to understand two variables on emotional intelligence. So let's just take like the big five kind of emotions. So if I take being angry, being sad, being happy, being afraid, and being ashamed. Not everybody espouses those as the big five, but let's just call them the big five for today. Can I recognize how those emotions are activated in certain situations? And if I can, then I have to go a second level, which is, okay, when I get into that situation, what's the intensity? Because if you got angry with me, Samuel, being angry is one thing, but if you have a high intensity and you're irate, that's a whole nother level of intensity. And then you have to strategize. What do I do when I get there? So one of the things I do with my MBA students, and they hate me for this, just so you know, until the end of the semester. But hold on, I got to grab I just realized we're sitting here talking and I didn't do something I should do, which was plug in my computer. So let me do that so we don't lose each other. All right. So anyway, so what my MBA students, what I have them do, there we go. What I have them do is this. That's another thing. If you get under pressure, you better have your contingency plan ready. So that's another one. But nonetheless, I have them journal. I don't care whether it's on their phone, on their iPad or whatever. There's a reason that the health app on Apple Watch that they have that you can log emotions during certain parts of the day. There's a reason your Aura Ring actually can pick up on stress levels throughout the day because you can't carry that forever. But what I have them do is I have them journal at 8 o'clock, noon, and 5 o'clock, 3 times during time points during the day for 2 straight weeks. At that point in time, what emotion are they feeling? And I give them the big 5. And then they have to say what intensity is of it. And then at the end of the day, they say, do I see any patterns? And I have them do that for 2 straight weeks, including the weekends. And what invariably happens, because they journal, and journaling and meditation, all that stuff is so important for all of us in life. It's good for our health. What they find is they see patterns. Wow, man, I just realized that if I schedule that meeting at 11:30 because of the demands I have in the morning, man, that's not my best self. But yet I still pack my calendar at 11:30. I got to maybe move that out and not do it at that time. I need to take like a 30-second break or 30-minute break or whatever it is. 30 seconds is not enough to kind of reset neurologically. Sure. You need at least 7 to like 15 minutes, but they'll find patterns. And so to answer your question directly, when you're in a situation, like if you don't know how certain events activate certain emotions, journal it. Because you have to increase your self-awareness of that. That's the portal. That's the heartbeat of emotional intelligence. And we've got to get past the information. You can find that on AI in 5 seconds. Sure. So but the information doesn't matter if you can't activate it and say, wow, when I go into Dr. Jones's office, it's not like going into Dr. Samuel's office, because Dr. Samuel's office, man, he loves me, man. We have great conversations. We talk about everything. But man, that other guy, man, he pounds me over the head, never has time, all that different emotional response when you get in there. So then if I'm aware of that, then I say, how am I going to manage it? So you have to know the domains as well as the core competencies of EI, but just journal it. That's the takeaway tip. Journal it. Feel no stress. I bet you feel no stress when you get on a podcast. If you do this enough, I bet you're very comfortable.
This is a very relaxed thing for me. What other thing would you like to just share with our audience? Remember, our audience are professionals in the field doing it right now. The pharma reps you mentioned, the medical device reps, the diagnostic reps, the dental reps, the med supply reps. We can go on and on and on. And then our listeners are the managers of those reps, the leaders that are trying to drive these teams like you've been in your past. And then finally, the owners of the spaces that have their own companies and they're trying to make decisions on who they should hire, from the leader to the reps. What advice would you have for all of them before we wrap it up today?
Well, I'll say one for the sellers, for those on the front line. I said this earlier, but I want to say it again, how much I respect what they do. Do it with the compassion that you bring something to people that is going to make it. Compassion is action, so that you're putting something in action. It's not enough just to feel what they feel and think of their perspective. You have to put it into action. And so carry that every day on every call, because it matters. So those of you that are like reaching frequency, like, gurus, I don't know. I never played that game, quite honestly, unless I contractually had to. I want quality. I want quality, and I want that passion into there. But the last thing I'll say to them is see your job as a craft. Like a great clip from Kobe Bryant. And I remember Kobe saying, this is one of the last interviews he did before he passed away, unfortunately, was the way that man prepared. You didn't have to like him all the time, but the way he prepared, the way he showed up in the gym, the way he looked at his craft, the way he thought to himself, get over yourself because you're not that important, man. You know, he leaned in and he worked and he worked and he worked. And he said something one time that the world became his library, and he just was a continuous learner. Don't get lazy in your craft. Like, if you want to separate from the best, be the best. And you be the best by actually by doing something over and over and over again. Never stop learning. I don't care whether you've been in the field 28 years or you've been in the field 8 months. That's what I would say to them. For the managers, I don't like to call them managers. Let's call them leader coaches. For the leader coaches, I'll give them 3 nuggets and I just published our book, Neuro Coaching, which we launched in May. And it was after my doctoral research because I studied leader-follower relationships. And I never had a coaching framework that I thought was worth a darn in almost 25 years of leadership. So we created one that was research-backed. That's our sister to NeuroSelling. There's 3 things I would tell them. Know the values of every team member on their team. Know what intrinsically motivates them. They're not the same. You can't train them like a group. Second thing, hold your team to the highest accountability of standards that align to the mission on where you're going. Standards are those non-negotiable things that are lived, that never go unspoken. Mike Tomlin, coach of the Steelers, 19 years of success, and I don't even like the Steelers. But what you can't argue with is the guy's never had a losing season. He says the standard is the standard. So understand that. They want the accountability, but make sure the standards are clear. It's good for your kids too. Number 3 is go back to what we said about to the sellers. Understand the perspective when you're having a coaching conversation with those you lead. You look at it from perspective taking and perspective giving, you'll change the world. Those are 3 things for the leader coaches. When it comes to the people hiring those, character matters. Character matters. Find great people that really care about what they do and hire with the highest level of integrity. You can train them the science. Hire people that you see that have really strong communication skills because that's what's necessary for that job. And that also have, if they can show it, really, really strong core values. And also that, that they have some degree of understanding of emotional intelligence because we're under pressure all the time. Hire character. I can train science.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Dr. Dan, this was a fantastic episode. It was awesome having you on today. Thank you for everything you've shared with our audience. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a customized and personalized program that gets you into the medical technology industry as a sales professional or any type of role for that matter. Become a top performer in your position and masterfully navigate your career to executive level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolvesuccess.com by visiting our site, filling out an application, schedule some time with one of our account executives, and allowing us to get you where you need to be. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews on the Medical Sales Podcast.